It's time to get our sword wet in the newest addition to the Elder Scrolls series, Dawnguard. Xbox 360 owners have been enjoying the game for well over a month now, but it's time for the PC crowd to get the upgrade. The vampire abilities have received a heavy buff in this expansion, but it's up to us to see how impressive they actually are. Let's go ahead and see if it is worthy of the $20 price tag that this DLC has been slapped with. I decided it was time to send my good friend Conan of Samaria to Skyrim. He was dying to hear the lamentations of the women anyway. Conan began his journey into the world, and before he could make it into the Dawnguard base of operations, he stumbled upon a beacon of a god. Once he reached the altar of the god, he would find himself in a quest for the holy weapon, Dawnbreaker. It was clear that this was the theme of the expansion, as Dawnbreaker was made for slaying the undead. It was off to the Dawnguard base where the true story would begin. It didn't take long to come face to face with the leader of the Dawnguard. The man didn't have much to say. He strictly wanted to send Conan into a den of vampires to get his hands dirty. This is where the first taste of the new expansion will tickle your fingertips. Conan was quickly given a weighty crossbow for long-range stake attacks against the neck biters. He then headed to the den of vampires and began cleaving his way to the surprise in a box. A woman named Serana came spilling forth from the box, and she was a vampire unlike any he killed on his way in. In exchange for saving her, she offered to take him to see her father. It was here that Conan would discover his fate in the world. Now would I sign with the Dawnguard to slay Selena and her coven, or would I take the power given to me to hear the lamentations of the women? Alright Conan, I need you to relax. Just chill. The answer is actually no contest. If players side with the Dawnguard, they don't really get anything out of it. If you have a simple satisfaction of slaying vampires for a living, that's all you really have to look forward to. If you join the vampires, the story is actually much deeper and more satisfying in comparison. That and you also open a brand new perk tree and gain new powers as a vampire lord. I'm not saying it isn't fun being a part of the Dawnguard, but the whole point of this expansion is obviously the vampire story. New gear, gameplay, and a small number of new monsters to fight. The crossbow is a nice addition, but it doesn't add its own set of perks, unlike the vampire lord form. There isn't much incentive to care since you get the crossbow regardless of if you become a vampire or not. The vampire powers are truly destructive, but mostly made up of magical abilities. Players can shift back and forth between melee and magic forms by pressing the control key. However, the melee form is considerably weaker than the blood magic side. It's better to stay in flight mode as long as possible and try to keep your magicka up. New powers like bat teleportation, shifting into mist, and summoning a gargoyle to do your bidding provide ample reason to stay a vampire. However, just like the werewolf form, the vampire lord takes over the entire model of your character. While these new powers are pretty cool, it's a shame that you're stuck to the tank-like movements of a vampire lord. All in all, I felt better letting Conan sport his normal armor and slash and shout to his heart's content. Luckily, the addition of content in the already staggering amount provided with the original game is acceptable. Players will engage in some small puzzles like fixing a moon dial or searching a crime scene CSI style. As mentioned before, there are also some side quests that don't directly affect the vampire versus Dawnguard dynamic. What's added isn't exactly something to woo over, but it's good to have just a little bit more to do in Skyrim. Dawnguard is a good addition to the brimming amount of content in Skyrim. The new vampire powers are pretty impressive aesthetically, even if the form itself is ugly and the powers are underwhelming as actual abilities. The content isn't exactly an open world location to roam and stumble onto random adventures, and that's what the Elder Scrolls games are all about. The DLC leads you by the nose to each new area, and the side quests are usually right there waiting for the player. So half-assed gaming gives Dawnguard a C+. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice piece of new content, but $20 is asking a lot for downloadable content, and not a new expansion.